We are live now.
では、皆様お時間になりましたので、始めさせていただきます。今日はノースアンブリア大学のファッション&デザインを学ぼうのオンラインセミナーにご参加いただき、どうもありがとうございます。本日のセミナーは YouTube での同時配信になりますので、皆様ミュートにさせていただいております。もしご質問がございます場合は、プレゼンテーションの最後にお答えさせていただきますので、ぜひお気軽にZoom のチャットボックスから、ご質問をご投稿ください。本日お話しいただくノーサンブリア大学はニューキャッスル、サッカーが有名なニューキャッスルにある大学で、ほとんどのコースが専門的な認定を受けている、とても就職率が高い大学になります。デザイン分野では、アップルの元 CDO 最高デザイン責任者のジョナサン・アイブが卒業生として有名です。では本日はマーク先生にお話を伺います。では皆様最後までどうぞよろしくお願いいたします。はい、Mark, hand it over to you now.
Thank you so much. So I will now try to share my screen. So that's the first technical challenge, and assuming that goes well, we will be able to begin. So thank you very much for the introduction. I didn't understand any of it, but I'm sure it was perfect. My name is Mark Bailey, and I'm an associate professor from Northumbria University School of Design here in the United Kingdom. Northumbria is the UK's top young university in the world rankings for universities. And we're one of the most dynamic universities in terms of our growth and improved rankings over the years. We're a large university with over 30,000 students spread over 3 campuses in Newcastle, London and Amsterdam. 20% or so of our students are international students. And our School of Design, where I work, is well known around the world for its global reputation in design research and excellence in design education. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the United Kingdom, we're up there in the northeast of England, very close to the Scottish borders. And as well as our rankings in the established academic tables, we've also been voted as the best UK city for students. So students know that they can come to Newcastle and study well and live well and enjoy the student life well. Newcastle, I should explain, is a busy city, but in a beautiful rural environment. So very close to the city, we have access to beautiful long coastal beaches and amazing historic countryside. The photograph of the wall is the famous Roman wall, Hadrian's Wall, built by the Romans to separate England from Scotland many centuries ago. But we are just 2 hours and 50 from London by train. We're less than an hour away from Amsterdam by air, and we have an international airport in Newcastle. For those of you who follow such things, your compatriot Yoshinori Muto saw Newcastle as a fine place to be and joined our Premier League football club, Newcastle United, for several years. He has in fact just left us, but his decision to come was a good one. So the School of Design exists within the Faculty of Arts, Design and Social Sciences, and our faculty is dedicated to the study of culture and its relationship to society. So at the heart of all that we do is this fundamental question of what it means to be human and how we live in the world today and how we shape a sustainable future. So a little more about the faculty. The faculty has 4 departments, over 300 academic staff, over 5,500 students. And again, the international makeup of our student body is really important to us. And within the faculty, we have students from over 50 different countries. And again, we have facilities across our 3 campuses. But beyond that, we have educational partnerships all around the world. So the 4 departments within our faculty, and these are departments which, as design students, you can access. So we have an arts department, we have the School of Design, of course, a Department of Humanities and a Department of Social Sciences. And the work of each of those departments informs the work of the others. So I'm going to go back in time a little bit and not dwell on this too much, but I want to explain to you how we come to be one of the best design schools in the world. And it started in 1835 when the UK's Parliament determined that there should be a number of schools of design, schools of art and design established to help the general public learn more about the role of art and design in the world, in the context of the Industrial Revolution and how we could make society a better place by better informing the wider public about the role that design and the arts might play in the future of society. And so in 1844, as a consequence of that work, or that government position, one of the first government schools of design was set up here in Newcastle upon Tyne, and it's on those roots that our present School of Design, some 170 plus years later, is still offering this fantastic education and research in design in a city that is truly innovative. And if I tell you that the first railway engines were invented in Newcastle, the first little electric light bulbs were created in Newcastle, and so on and so forth, this is a really innovative city on a global scale. But to think more about our design school, so our ethos is what underpins everything that we do, and we believe that design studies should equip our graduates with the knowledge and the skills and, critically, the creative confidence to make a positive change in the world. So we've designed our degree courses to help students develop in this way through both practical experience that is underpinned by cutting-edge research. And we do that, we achieve this by combining theory and practical experience gained in studios and workshops with working with the outside world, working with external partner organizations to bring the theory and practice that you learn in the university to life in the real world. So a quick overview of the school. And again, one of our strengths is the breadth of the school's activities. So within the School of Design, undergraduates studies can include everything from three-dimensional design, interior design, industrial design. We call our undergraduate degree design for industry. And that incorporates everything from service design through digital interaction to mass-produced products. We have undergraduate degrees in graphic design, fashion design, fashion design and marketing, and fashion communication. And when we look at the postgraduate picture, you can see that that is equally comprehensive, with MA degrees in design, in communication design, in luxury brand management, and in design management. But also we have a Master of Research in Design and a degree called Multidisciplinary Innovation. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that degree in a moment. But in addition to those programs, we also have 4 particular routes in fashion design at postgraduate level. So we have an MA in Fashion Design, Sustainable and Ethical Fashion, which, as you can imagine, is interested in how we can ensure that fashion in the future is environmentally positive rather than damaging. Fashion design performance wear. So if you think about the sort of particular apparel and garments that people use to enhance their performance, whether that's in a sporting sense or in, for example, if you think about the Paralympics that are going on in Tokyo right now, the sort of apparel that may enhance performance for people with particular needs and so on, then that is what that program focuses on. And then we have MA Fashion Design Menswear and Fashion Design Womenswear. All of these programs are supported by, as you would expect, cutting edge facilities. I won't go through the details here, but I'll be sharing the slides anyway. You can read about them. But we work closely with industry, so our facilities are industry standard. And I talk about industry because this is really important, and it's one of the defining characteristics of design education at Northumbria, that we work in deep collaboration with external industry partners, whether that's through students engaging in live project briefs as part of their learning, or taking on internships, working on projects that are fully integrated with your studies, or involving researching with external partners. All of that is characteristic of the way that we work. And it means that the education that we're delivering is education that industry wants. And that means that our graduates are shaped by industry and ready for industry. They're ready for employment. Just to give you a quick snapshot, these are a handful of logos of some of the organizations that we've been working with in the past year or two. And of course, I use, big names to illustrate we work with some of the world's biggest corporations. But we also work with local startup businesses, local charities, and so on and so forth. And it's really important that students have that experience of working with organizations across that spectrum. And of course, we are award winners. So our students win prizes, and they win prizes, they win awards in the most prestigious of international student design awards, whether that be through the D&AD, that is very much specialized around the graphics and communication area, whether it's through the London and International Graduate Fashion Weeks, or through the Royal Society of Arts Student Design Awards, and many others. Our students, our graduates, are award winners. So we talk about graduates, and of course, it's important to think about where our graduates go. And of course, we signpost, or we signal our famous alumni. And this slide's interesting because, of course, everybody interested in design has heard of Sir Johnny Ive, and Johnny was formerly the chief design officer at Apple, and of course he's no longer there, he's doing his own thing. But Johnny graduated from Design for Industry back in 1989, and he's remained a friend of the course ever since. Of course, he doesn't visit us that often. His time is precious. He's based in the States and so on. But when he does visit, he spends time with our students because that's what he cares about, rather than standing on a pedestal. Nicola Morgan, who's now creative director of Perfect Number in LA, she's much earlier in her career. She's only 10 or 11 years out from Northumbria, but she's on a trajectory. And I think that the important thing here is to highlight that our graduates go into organizations and make a difference in those organizations, whether they're working as independent designers or leading from boardroom positions, global corporations. They're all trying to make a difference in the world positively through design. I mentioned creative confidence earlier, and I want to just spend a little bit of time thinking about that, because that's at the foundation, if you like, of all of our design studies, that we nurture creative confidence in our students. And you know, creative confidence is a term that was summarized by the Kelly brothers, who founded IDEO, and what they say is that creative confidence is that ability to come up with ideas and the courage to try them out. And of course, you know, this requires both an independence of thought and a courage and willingness to learn from failure. So we encourage and support failure as learning in disguise. And of course, this also requires that students take some responsibility for their own learning, you know, trying new things out, reflecting on what works and what doesn't work, and continuously enhancing their practice. So all of our degree programs are designed with that fundamental understanding at their heart. So I want to just zoom out for a few moments, and I'm going to ask a question. Bear with me a second, please. Okay, sorry about that. So I've talked a lot about design, but what is design? We tend to think about design in terms of the sorts of things that are coming on your screen now. And of course, you know, these things have a couple of things in common. One is that they are all designed objects. They are designs. Another thing that those objects all have in common is that they were all designed by Northumbria alumni. But when I think about design, I think of it slightly differently. I think that design is the art of creative compromise. Let me explain what I mean by that. So if we think about the design of pens, really simple things, I can maybe illustrate what I mean. So I think that design, this creative compromise, is a creative and synthetic series of actions in which the relevant knowledge to that situation is arranged and rearranged in order to come up with the best fit for the situation that we're trying to design for. So if you think about the pens, it's easy to understand that multiple different disciplinary contributions are required to ensure that the pen is a suitable size and weight to hold, you know, so it fits nicely in your hand, to make sure that the ink runs smoothly without leaking or drying up, to make sure that it complies with all of the relevant legislation, that it's aesthetically appealing, that it could be manufactured in suitable numbers and at suitable price and for its intended market, and so on and so forth. And the relative importance that we give to each one of those different criteria has a clear impact on the outcome of the design of the pen. And that's why the Mont Blanc and the Bic can both be so very different from each other and yet be viewed as class-leading pens, delivering what pens are designed to deliver, which is the wherewithal to make marks, to write. And yet they both convey very different meanings. So these pens, for me, sum up what I mean by the art of creative compromise. The thing is that designers are working increasingly in areas where we design things that are way more complicated than pens. And we're dealing with circumstances that are way more complicated than the simple design of the Bic or the Mont Blanc. So if you take, for example, the design of a garment now, and you think about issues of fit and function and style, the things that we would generally think about when we design a garment, we now need to be thinking really carefully about environment, about sustainability, about the working conditions of the people who make the garments, about the logistics of getting them to the places they need to be, and so on and so forth. So even within the world of the traditional design domains, the complexity of designing has increased. But the situations that designers are working in now have become expanded. So we are working in what's known as the expanded field in design, where we're addressing much more complex, networked, dynamic situations. And I use the word situations just as an aside here. People often talk about problems and solutions in design. I prefer to talk about situations and opportunities, because I believe that is much more positive in terms of recognizing that there are always ways that we can address a particular situation. And there are multiple ways, and that means that we have choices. So what this all means is that design on its own is not enough. It's not enough for us to be able to deal with what are termed wicked problems, those complex network dynamic situations, okay? But what design can help us do is develop new knowledge when we address problems in those complex situations. And I think what it's helpful for, and I'm going to show you a few little slides and an example in a moment to explain this before I wrap up and take some questions, is that design helps us create new knowledge when we work with other disciplines that is about the particular situation that we're designing for. It helps us to develop new knowledge about the methods and tools and ways of working with different disciplines in complex situations. And critically, it helps us to develop new knowledge about ourselves so we can learn and grow, which is at the heart of design education. So what we found out through our research and the way that we work is that designers are terrific at facilitating this knowledge creation between different disciplines working on complex issues. And that's because designers typically are comfortable with uncertainty, with not knowing. they appreciate that designs are not permanent, but they're a stepping stone towards further knowledge. Designers have the ability to visualize ideas in a way that makes them really easy for other people to understand. And designers nurture fragile ideas. And fragile ideas are really important. So I'm going to explain what I mean here. Let's imagine that you're working in a complex project which has lots of different stakeholders and different disciplinary knowledge required to address that problem. It might be something to do with policing, or to do with the way that a community redesigns its traffic flow, or whatever, something complicated where lots of different points of view are required. So we have this big cloud of ambiguity, of uncertainty, the things that we just don't quite understand yet. And we have a confident but quiet voice that says, what if we did so and so? Designers are really good at saying, oh, yes, what if we did that and we did it like this? Or, yes, we could do that and we can imagine it this way. And so what happens in that situation when you nurture that fragile idea is that we start to develop more ideas, more what ifs. And by developing more of these what ifs, we create greater understanding and dialogue. And in that situation, more people are prepared to offer their half thought through fragile ideas, until all of a sudden our cloud of ambiguity has become a cloud of knowledge about the situation, where little bits of knowledge from all of the different specialists, from the engineers, from the anthropologists, from the marketing people, from the designers as well, are all starting to build up a bigger picture. And what happens in that situation is that the fragile ideas become stronger ideas, and that the individuals involved develop growing confidence in their creativity. So their creative confidence grows. And as they go through this sort of activity more and more, what they become, they become transformed themselves. So we see people transitioning from expert participants in projects to becoming real co-creative activists, people who are willing to take the risk to start new projects and to involve people in creative practice. So I'll talk you through a quick example before I wrap up. What I've just described is typical of the way that our students learn and work in the master's program Multidisciplinary Innovation, which brings students from different disciplinary backgrounds, not just design, to work together on real world challenges posed by external partner organizations. And they use this design thinking approach to learn how to innovate in different situations. So in this particular example, the complex situation that we were working in involves the education in UK schools that is focused on careers and the choices that students make about what career they should pursue in the future. In very simple terms, the UK government requires that all school children should receive what they term a meaningful experience of the workplace. So typically they would do a little bit of work experience for a week, shadowing somebody in a workplace. Our project was funded by a number of different organizations, and was looking at trying to achieve a better standard of careers education for all children. And it was informed by multiple different stakeholders with very different perspectives and different requirements, from school children, parents, educationalists, local government, all of these different people, and of course teachers, all of these people involved in this project. And what the project sponsors wanted us to do was to design a solution. Do this and kids will have better careers education. But what our research showed, what asking those fragile questions, those fragile and posing those fragile ideas showed, was that we couldn't design a single solution that would be appropriate in all schools, because all schools are different because of where they are and the relationships they have and so on and so forth. So the fragile idea that was explored, that eventually came to fruition, was, what if we designed tools that enabled the stakeholders, the teachers and schools, to design their own solutions? What we generated then was, through nurturing that idea, was a three-stage framework that was designed in a way that allowed the schools to develop this meaningful experience of the workplace. And as they used it, the teachers became more empowered with creative confidence to design and redesign interventions for their pupils. And what we've seen is that this approach has been adopted by the schools in our region, by schools nationally. It's been written into national guidelines, and it's been adopted by educational charities in places such as Spain and Hong Kong and elsewhere in the world. So I wanted to share that example with you because it demonstrates very clearly how whilst our students are learning, working on these projects with the outside world, they have the capacity to make a difference in the world. So to sum up, my message to you, wherever you study, and I would love to see you at Northumbria, is that you must trust in your fragile ideas and seek to work with others who will help you nurture those ideas, and that you must use your creative confidence to nurture and support others with their fragile ideas. We've been through the most uncertain of times over the past 18 months, all of us, and I encourage you to embrace that uncertainty and the unprecedented nature of the times, because they offer unprecedented opportunity to make the world, a better place for all of us. And of course, that's what we all want and need. So if you'd like to learn more, I would encourage you to consider MSc in multidisciplinary innovation. But that is just one of our master's programs, and all of our programs embed the essence of what I've just described there. So, please do think about us. Thank you for listening to me. I know that what happens next is that I'll try and answer some questions if you have any. But if you don't have any questions right now, please do feel free to email me. The address is on the screen for the moment, I'll do my best to get back to you with any of those questions that you might have. So I'm going to encourage you to take a screenshot if you want the email address quickly, because I'm going to stop sharing now. so that I can take any questions that you might have. Did that work?
Yes, I think so.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for your presentation and the very inspiring message. では皆様ご清聴いただきありがとうございました。ここから Q&A セッションに移ってまいります。Zoom でご参加の方もぜひ気軽にチャットボックスの方にいろいろご質問をいただければと思います。とても優しく丁寧に解説していただいた先生ですので、何でもお聞きください。今、YouTube の方でいただいているご質問にまずお答えさせていただきます。1年間ギャップイヤーを取りました。テキスタイルデザインの学士課程に出願できますか？ Mark? Yeah. The first question is that the student has taken a one-year gap year. Can she do any study abroad, one-year program at your textile and design bachelor degree?
We do have the opportunity for students to apply to join us for a year in their studies. It rather depends where in her studies she is. So if this is before starting an undergraduate degree, then we do have a foundation program that she could apply to. If she's partway through a degree course and she's taken some time out, then she could apply, assuming her undergraduate studies are in a relevant subject, she could apply to the appropriate course at Northumbria to continue her studies there for a year. But if she wants to send me the details of her particular situation, then I can advise more clearly on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
ありがとうございます。そうですね。例えば1年間日本で学んだ後にギャップイヤーを取って、ノーサンブリアは学部短期留学も提供している大学ですので、そのルートも可能かと思いますし、もしくはいろいろ柔軟に対応してくれる大学、実践的な大学ですので、編入や、あとそうですね、ちょっと短めの学士課程も提供しておりますので、何かさらに具体的に出願を検討される場合は、ぜひマーク先生までご連絡いただければ確認してくださるとのことです。では、次に出願プロセスについて詳しく教えてくださいとのことです。Hi, Mark. The next question is more about administrative question, but could you tell us something about your admission process, how to apply for your design courses? I think most students are not really sure about what kind of portfolio they need to submit. Hi, Mark, are you there? I think your video stopped.
Hello.
Oh, yes. Now you are back, but the internet connection seems to be bad. Hello? Yes, you are back. I think, but you are unmuted.
You're on mute, Mike.
Got it. Sorry, I missed all of the question, unfortunately. I don't know what happened to the connection.
No problem. The question is more about the administrative process. Could you tell us something about how to apply to your design courses, including maybe portfolio?
Okay, so the portfolio is a big question that I get asked about a great deal, and I'll talk about that in a second. All of our programs can be applied for directly online. So there is on any of the program pages for each of the programs, there will be a box that you can't avoid. It's very obvious that says apply now. If you visit the international pages of our website, that also takes you through application for international students. And of course, working with local agents is a very good way of ensuring that that process is streamlined. It's fair to say that it can take a little bit of time, and because we require portfolios and we want the portfolios to be well considered, we do take a little bit of time to look at those. And I think some international applicants are very keen to sort out where they're going and what they're going to do, and maybe a little bit impatient with us. And I know that there are other universities who will make decisions and make offers very, very quickly. And some students prefer to go to those places because of the speed of response. I would encourage you to just think about why we take time. And of course, it's because we're looking at the applications very carefully. Let me talk about portfolios a little bit. So there are guidelines on the website regarding the size of portfolios, digital files, and how to upload them and things like that. And they, that does introduce some limitations in terms of how much material you can show us. What students typically think they should show off is not necessarily what we typically want to see. Students tend to want to show us beautiful finished things. This is a photograph of my beautifully made model, my beautiful finished garment on the catwalk, my, whatever it might be. What we want to see is evidence of the journey that got you from the initial idea all the way through to the finished article. We want to see the things that you tried that didn't work. And we want to, so that we can understand through that visual material how your thinking has adapted along the way. So we like to see sketches and development models and a real expression of yourself coming through the portfolio. So that is our real purpose in the portfolio, is that it allows us to get to know you as a creative person and as a creative learner. So I would really encourage you to think about how you build a portfolio to do that. I can share some slides that might be useful on that, but as I say, I know that there are some guides on the website as well. Not all of our programs requires a portfolio. So, for example, the multidisciplinary innovation program, because it attracts students, deliberately recruits students from business and from psychology and sociology and technology subjects, as well as arts and design subjects. We can't stipulate a portfolio. We're interested in what motivates you as an individual and how you bring those skills into a multidisciplinary practice. So that's slightly different.
Thank you very much for the very detailed answer.
Okay.
ありがとうございます。書類に関しては、マーク先生からご推薦いただいたように、SIUK のような公式出願窓口を通じて、ご出願いただければ、こちらで不備の確認だったり、様式や書くと良いことについてご案内が可能です。ポートフォリオについて今メインでお答えいただいたんですが、そうですね、この大学はしっかりすべての書類やポートフォリオを見ているので、少し審査の時間が長くなるかもしれないということだったんですが、ポートフォリオでは完成品ではなく、皆様が最初に持ったアイディア、イニシャルアイディアからどういうふうに発展させてきて、ご自身の思いを、あと世界観をどういうふうに反映してきているのかっていうプロセスを非常に見たいのが大学側の意向なので、例えばスケッチだったり、その徐々にディベロップメントさせているものを載せると良いというアドバイスをいただきました。また、最後にご紹介いただいたインターディシプリナリー・イノベーションっていうようなコースですと、ポートフォリオが不要な場合もございます。こちらはよりどういうモチベーションを持っているか、志望動機書の方が重要になってくるコースになりますね。なので、デザインシンキングを学びたいけれども、ポートフォリオは作ったことがないという方は、そちらのコースもおすすめかと思います。次に、Zoom からのご質問で、日本でデザインの大学などを卒業している必要はありますか？はい、ありがとうございます。いいご質問ですね。はい、Mark. The next question is that the student asked, do I need to have a bachelor degree in design? It's a question about the background.
So that depends which of our programs I'm just looking for some information whilst I answer the question. That's why I'm looking away from the camera, sorry. So it does depend on which of our programs you are wishing to study. For the I'm just looking at my list. So for MA design, we will consider people from different disciplinary backgrounds, although we would probably recommend multidisciplinary innovation, which is clearly for people with includes people with different backgrounds. Luxury brand management is also a program where might come with a marketing background or some other background. The distance learning design management program that we run is also something that will welcome students from with different disciplinary backgrounds. That, of course, is an online course, so you can study from anywhere in the world. Our fashion programs and communication design program would require an undergraduate, a bachelor degree in relevant design subject.
Thank you, Mark. Actually, the student studied physics at school.
Okay, that student should apply for multidisciplinary innovation. That would be fantastic. They would make a really great contribution to the cohort, and their education in design and creativity would really benefit from that design-led approach of the multidisciplinary program.
Yes, that would be really interesting.
Great question.
Yes. Yeah, and he or she also wants to study interior design at postgraduate level with a physics background. Is that possible?
I think that would be quite difficult, if I'm honest. Interestingly, we are developing an interior design postgraduate course at the moment, which may well be running by next academic year. But that the expectation there would be an interior design bachelor degree, I think.
Thank you. ご質問ありがとうございました。そうですね。とてもユニークなバックグラウンドで、もしご参加いただけた場合は、その学生全体にきっと貴重な貢献をしていただけるということで、ぜひ、そのインターディシプナリーの、割とちょっと幅広いデザインのコース、イノベーションのコースであれば、問題ないかと思います。ただ、インテリアデザインなどのコースですと、ポートフォリオの作成が入ってきたり、大学学部のバックグラウンドとしては、一応デザイン関連のことが求められますので、ポートフォリオの質などにもよってきますが、先生のご経験からは少し難しいかなという正直なコメントをいただきました。もし何か今、日本で例えば、ポートフォリオを作る専門学校などに通われていらっしゃる場合は、可能性はなくはないかと思いますので、よろしければもう少し詳細を教えていただければ。次に、在学中に就労機会のあるインテリア建築とデザインコースはありますか？ Hi Mark. The next question is that do you have any course that offers a placement for your with your interior design or architecture course?
So the undergraduate programs, there is an option for all of our undergraduate students to take a year out on internship, and our academic teams within both the interior design and interior architecture programs have good connections with local employers and so on, so they can support that that internship activity. It's not a formal requirement of either of those programs that students do an internship, but it's certainly something that the university supports and has a mechanism in place for.
Thank you. ありがとうございます。そうですね、学部のコースであれば、そのイギリスでいうプレイスメントというインターンがセットになっていたり、あとそうした機会もあるのと、大学としてもぜひ就労機会があるその産業界での経験を歓迎しているということですね。はい、他にも何かご質問があれば、ぜひお気軽に質問ください。次に、そうですね、在学中はどのような就労チャンスがありますか？パートタイムの仕事などありますか？はい、こちら、学部に関してはいろいろインターンなどの機会もありますので、大学院について少し聞いてみたいと思います。Hi, Mark. The next question is again about employability. Is there any chance to get a job after graduation? Any part-time job during the course for postgraduate students?
Okay. So there are some fairly strict rules about how much time a student on a study visa can spend in part-time employment during their studies. And there are rules about studying, working after finishing a degree. But the answer to the, so within those rules, yes, students, postgraduate students do work part-time to supplement their income for a few hours a week. Okay, and there's plenty of employment in the city that supports that sort of thing. And certainly, yes, we have very, very high graduate employability rates, and many of our international students take advantage of the opportunity that their visa allows them to work for a period of time in the UK before returning or going elsewhere in the world. So very definitely, yes, that's what most students do.
Right, thank you. はい、ほとんどの学生が在学中または卒業後に何かしらの仕事を見つけられたり、あとそうですね、街中に機会が溢れているっていう、雇用が溢れているというふうにおっしゃっていただいたので、そういった機会は探していけばもちろんあるということです。ただ、ビザの関係で学部や大学院であれば週に20時間までアルバイトが可能になりますので、その時間内であれば、いろいろご経験いただけるかと思います。あと、イギリスは最近グラジュエートイミグレーションルートというものができまして、ご卒業後に原則現地でビザの更新をすれば2年間滞在していいことになりましたので、以前より少し在学中でも残ってからでも卒業されてからでもお仕事を見つけやすいような環境ができてきております。では、お時間になりましたので、本日はご参加いただき、どうもありがとうございました。また何かご質問がありましたら、弊社 SIUK またはマーク先生まで直接ぜひご質問ください。本日の内容が少しでもご参考になりましたら幸いです。今日はどうもありがとうございました。Thank you very much again, Mark, for joining today. It was great presentation, and I'm sure the students have learned a lot of things from you today. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for arranging this. Thank you to the students for being there and listening and for the very interesting questions. Please do feel free to email me any further questions if you have them. Okay, thank you very much, and enjoy your evening and the end of the Paralympic Games and the wonderful Olympic Games that you've hosted for all of us in the world to enjoy. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure to work with you. Bye-bye. Have a nice